It's a busy room tonight. It's a lovely crowd, and I am so ecstatic that we filled this room and we're getting really cozy and comfortable and making a lot of new friends. I usually pride myself on knowing most everyone in the room, but there are a lot of new faces tonight, which is very exciting. So thank you all for showing up. We are AITP. Tonight we're going to have this amazing panel of accomplished female and tech leaders. As March is Women in Tech Month. Yesterday was International Women's Day. Some of you found me yesterday at another event. And so we're celebrating women this month, and I am so excited to hear what these ladies have to share about their career success and imparting wisdom on all of us. And I'm trying to advance, but it's not. So technology. Yeah. So this is our board of directors. I tell everyone every month it takes a village. This is not just my show. There's so much work that goes into putting off these events every month, and especially pulling off a panel. Coordinating 5 speakers instead of 1. So Jerome, you did a fabulous job. Jerome, you did a fabulous job. Earn that second beverage. Becky, you did a great job. Thank you for all of the work of these amazing volunteers. We all have day jobs. We all work in tech, and this is an above and beyond accomplishment for our board to pull these off every month. So thank you to our fabulous board. And tonight is a special night. We're going to recognize the godfather of AITP. I may be the queen currently, but it all began with Brad. Back in 1981 when I was a wee lad. Last. I'm trying to rhyme. So our past president, Rich Otteson, has the honor of recognizing our godfather, Brad Moses, this evening. I'll pass the mic.
Thank you very much. Well, first, I've got a very short speech here, and I wouldn't even call it a speech, it's 1 page. You'll get an opportunity to recognize somebody for doing something, quite frankly, in my mind, extraordinary. And what I want to do is get it right. So forgive me if I'm doing a little reading, but I want to get it right. The Association of Information Technology Professionals, AITP, was founded in 1951. And Research Triangle Park came along in 1952. It has weathered a lot of storms, so think about it. It just turned 71 years old. How many technology-based organizations can you say survived 71 years? I'm pretty proud of that. Hard work and dedication are the bedrock of every great achievement. In addition, there is no substitute for experience. And experience often comes with time. One of our long-term members decided to step down after 40 years with AITP. Yes, he joined in 1982. Brad Moses has been a driving force in so many different ways. He's held every AITP-RTP local chapter at least once. And outside the local chapter, held leadership roles at AITP Regional to include filling the regional president position twice. Once for 4 years consecutive and 2 years before that. IT organizations are well known for talking bits and bytes, the latest technology, or new capabilities. Brad strongly believes that not only the technical aspects of IT, but the soft skills required to work or lead others. Anyone who knows Brad knows that he believes in people. He deeply believes in people development skills, spanning both areas of project management, leadership roles, employment skills, spanning both job opportunities, and when it happens, challenges. This differentiated AITP, and to this day, we have not wavered from including people development in supporting many of our programs. A couple of areas that he's proud of includes keeping AITP, just keeping it alive. And for anyone who's ever been involved in a nonprofit, you know it can be challenging at times, both from a financial and membership perspective, and most recently, from a pandemic perspective. He was instrumental in the creation of the Management Advisory Committee, which we call the MAC, which is a group of executive leaders that help guide and advise the chapter. He's always willing to help and share thoughtful advice, often from his personal experience to include both a positive perspective and areas that were challenging. As the saying goes, Those who fail to learn from their mistakes of their predecessors are destined to repeat them. And his insight has helped us avoid making those same mistakes. Brad may have decided to step away from AITP. However, he continues to stay active supporting military and service groups and is currently involved with several veterans associations. Bottom line, his desire to serve others has not diminished. Please join me in recognizing Brad for his outstanding service. And on behalf of 40 years of AITP members, board of directors, sponsors, speakers, and guests, we thank you for your service.
This is really flattering, to be honest, because I sit here and there's some people out here too, like Annette and others that I've known for the whole time I've been here. And it used to be DPMA, is where it started, Data Processing Management Association, and then it was changed. The name was changed to AITP because DP, Data Processing, went out of vogue, and it changed to IT. So we had to change it. And the other thing we needed to do too, as companies stopped supporting, this is way back, all of a sudden, they weren't supporting their employees and that to join organizations. You go to big conferences and all of that, which was a draw for a lot of them for years. I told Rich I wouldn't get on my soapbox. I'll try not to. But we weathered those storms. They weren't easy. But I'm going to tell you one thing. I'm trying to be short here. I'll make it short. The key thing about this organization that I love was the networking. And we had people from all different levels in the organization, from the CEO to the IT director, all the way down to the program analyst. I remember when I joined, I managed the applications programming group for Citizens Bank. And everybody was bits and bytes oriented. And the thing there was, what can I learn technically and all this? But yet, like Rich mentioned, soft skills have become very, very important, and more so every year that we grow. And changing that organization to focus on that was hard. And that's when we kind of formed the MAC, the Management Advisory Council. And that opened up the exposure of our board to various high-level management personnel. Usually they were CIOs or whatever in their respective organizations. And they began to realize, and our chapter began to realize, the value of networking, relationships, understanding what you're doing, not just from the bits and bytes perspective, but being able to communicate and be successful with your own company. You get yourself out of that little niche where you're just looking at, like I said, I hate to use the term all the time, but bits and bytes. That's what I grew up programming in, binary assembly. But, so the key thing I'm very happy about, 4 or 5 years ago, I met this senior level manager, Rich Otteson. And for years I've been saying, Brad, you've been on doing this thing for so long and putting in so many hours, you gotta find someone that you think is going to carry on and do a great job. Well, just like he complimented me, I'm complimenting him. And between him, Kate, and the other people, Becky, and the other, it's been great because one thing I always wanted to do, because we were a bunch of old guys, or women too, it took a while for that to get equal. And like I said, we were getting there, we were older, and I wanted to always, I've said, euthanize the organization. Rich will tell you that. I've said that right along for a long time. And by that I meant Y-O-U, not E. Because we were on the version of the EU, but it had to be changed. And I look out here tonight, this is really heartwarming to see all this youth at different age levels. I'm probably one of the oldest here now. I don't know. And, and it's great here to see personnel from the executive level partake their success and that and what they've accomplished. And for y'all to learn and listen from them. Now, I did get carried away. But Kate, I see Kate, well, I can go on and on with the people that I've met here. And that has been part of me being able to be successful with a corporation or in our own business. My wife is here too, and she was also served as an officer on the board at times after she retired from IBM. So she's been great. I got to give. She's a lot of the strength behind carrying on. Anyway, thank you very much. I want you all to be able to enjoy the panel you've got in front of you because you've got a lot of talent, experience, and knowledge there. So, thank you.
Thank you, Brad.
Thank you.
It's an honor and a privilege to have the responsibility to continue to keep the AITP organization not only alive but thriving, right? Like take a look at this room, right? And being a part of that euthanization, I think I qualify, right? And also the inclusivity, right? So I always tell people what makes AITP different, and it's that everyone is included, everyone is invited. We try to appeal to a diverse audience. And so even though I may have been referred to as a vendor, not a practitioner by some organizations. When I first got involved with AITP 5 years ago, I was a salesperson at an IT staffing company. I was welcomed with open arms here to be a part of your board, to be a part of membership, and I've served now for 5 years to be in a leadership capacity on the board. And so we really try to make this an inclusive, diverse place, provide value, provide networking, and create a community where IT professionals at any level in their career, whether it's their first IT job and they're new out of school, or they're going out on their own as a freelancer, independent consultant, or they're a CIO, or somewhere in between, that they have a place to come and learn and network and continue to build community. So, again, Brad, our godfather. So membership, we also have some new members and some new faces as we continue to grow. So I like to recognize, if you want to maybe raise your hand if your name is on this list. Linda, you still made the list for maybe one more month until you fall off. But thank you to our new members that have joined. And I will tell you a little bit more about membership. So our annual membership is the value cost price of $195, which includes 12 months. We meet second Thursday every month religiously in this room, sometimes in the front room when we're lucky, but at NC State University Club because they've been a great host for us. It's always second Thursday, it's always evening, same time, and different programming. So you get your annual membership. It covers all 12 months, the meals, and the cool thing about our membership is if you can't make it, if you're sick, if you're traveling, you're just not interested in the topic, although I don't see that happening because our VPs of programs find amazing speakers and topics, you can proxy your seat. So you can give your seat for the month event to someone else. So if you have a friend that lost their job, or a friend that's looking for a new opportunity, or someone on your team, if you're in a management role, you can give your seat to them to come to the event instead. So the proxying of the membership is our other differentiator and unique ad. And then this year we started offering the quarterly membership, which is great for someone that might be in a career transition or someone new that wasn't really sure that they wanted to commit to a full year with us yet. And so we have picked up some popularity with our quarterly membership at the $60 price point. But guests are always welcomed and encouraged. We love having you. And that's just come and pay for your cost of your meal, the $35. But it's definitely less expensive for you on a per month basis if you get that annual membership. And Brooke is not here this evening. He's our membership director, but a lot of my board members are here. You can talk to any of us about membership and how to get involved. And then we also have a new offering, a group membership. So this is the first time that we have done this, where we have a corporate membership. So I would like to thank Tracy. It's a big room. Tracy from State Employee Credit Union, SECU, for being our guinea pigs and our first group corporate members. So thank you. But it's a 5-member package, and you can read, I don't have to read to you all, but the benefit of that is encouraging your team members for continuous education and continuous learning and development, using it as a perk or recognition or reward to a high achiever on your team. And if our topic of interest is maybe security next month, I believe it is, you can send people from your security part of your IT organization to come and attend. And if the next topic is about data analytics, you can send the right people from your team for that topic and that monthly event. So it allows you the flexibility to not have named seats and named memberships, but have a corporate membership that you can then pick different people to fill those 5 seats. So thank you again to SCCU and SCCU for coming and for being our corporate member. Again, if you're interested in getting involved on a membership level with Brooke Smith, membership email address below. And then sponsorship. So we also have one of our favorite sponsors from last month, Tego, here in full force. Jennifer, Krista, Melissa, hello. And they were our sponsor last month. And so there's 2 ways to get involved and sponsor. If you have marketing dollars and you're looking to find a nonprofit organization that will give you a lot of bang for your buck and value add and create opportunities to get your name out there to the local audience, whether you're hiring or selling a product. We'd love to find a way to partner with you and expand your brand to our network. Check out our sponsorship opportunities. And here are some of our sponsors. Again, thank you, NC State University, for always being our hosts. I know this is a topic that could be debatable right now with March Madness, and so I will not even bring up the other potential universities that people are fans with and the games that are happening as we speak. So we'll just skip on from there. All right, so we're here to our program because I want to leave us as much time as possible for our panelists tonight. And here are our lovely panelists, and with that, I'm going to turn it over to Becky, who is our social media director. I had to think about that because last year she was in a different role. Social media director at AITP as our moderator, and I will let the ladies introduce themselves.
All right, there we go. That works. Hello, everyone. As Kate said, I'm Becky Scott. I'm the social media director on the board. That's why you'll see me running around taking pictures now and again. And I have the lovely privilege of getting to host everyone tonight. And we're going to start out by having everyone introduce themselves. And the first question in the intros are going to be around you stating your name and where you're from and why you decided to pursue an IT career. So Jennifer, we're going to start with you.
Thank you. My name is Jennifer Barone. I work for State Employees Credit Union. I've been there at the end of this month. It'll be a whole year. So you want to talk to me afterward? I'm good with that. So I got into IT. I was raised by a single mom, and so the teacher work days ended up being me staying home waiting for the repair guy. So in order to get my freedom back, I decided I'm going to repair stuff. And this is way before the internet was ever introduced. I know some of you are thinking, well, that's easy. You just go and look it up. No, you didn't. And I can tell you anything I repaired didn't get put back together the same way it got taken apart. So, but bottom line is I ended up going to college. I struggled. Didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I thought you had to know when you went into college what you were going to be. So I left for a year, went as a receptionist for a year, and I fixed the copier. Whatever was broken, they would call me and I had to go fix it. So my mom kind of noticed and she's like, you kind of got a knack for fixing stuff. So I ended up going and finding an engineering school, and I ended up studying electronic engineering. It was more practical for me because it was hands-on kind of learning. I actually got a degree, not a certificate, and I got my first co-op job out of there and working for the Department of Defense, and I repaired PCs and a fax machine, and some of you don't know what that is. Now you know how old I am. But anyway, so that's pretty much how I got my career started.
Sure.
Hi, everybody. I am Sherry Yerkes-Wickle, and I'm the Vice President for IT and Chief Information Officer at Campbell University. And I've been at Campbell about almost 6 years now, but I have been in higher ed almost my entire professional career, which is getting close to 35 years now. So it's been an interesting journey, to say the least. And like Jennifer, I'm going to go back to growing up. So my dad was a mechanic in the Air Force. My mom was a secretary. Neither of them went to college. When I was in high school, I didn't even think about going to college. And so I went to what at the time was called VOTEC. And I studied cosmetology. I still cut my husband's hair in case there's So got my cosmetology license. I think I did hair for about a week and said, there's no freaking way I'm gonna do this. It just wasn't me. And so my mom, the company that she was the secretary at, one of her bosses, she was the secretary in an IT department. Well, at that time it was MIS, so we're gonna date ourselves here too. So my mom worked for this woman who was teaching at the local community college, and my mom took a class in intro to flowcharting, I think it was, and my mom hated it, but she said to me, "You'd be really good at this. You should look at doing this." And so I went to the community college, got my associate's degree. Decided I loved solving problems. I loved what was then called data processing, and that was kind of the start of my professional career. So.
Did you not like making small talk? Is that why you didn't like it? I'm with you. Raji Padmanabhan, I work for First Citizens Bank, supporting corporate technology. My story isn't nearly as fascinating as either of yours. So I grew up in India, and those who may know how it is growing up there. When you're in high school, you have one of two options: you either become a doctor or an engineer. I was 10th grade. We had this biology lab, frog dissection time. I looked at the frog and collapsed right there. So I knew medicine wasn't for me, and so turned to engineering. Citibank happened to be hiring when I was looking for jobs 4th year in college, and that's how I got into IT.
So had bad memory when she mentioned the dissection of frogs in high school. I didn't even think about medical. My name is Phoebe Thermitis. I am with Lenovo. I'm the director in project management of our digital transformation organization. My journey started without me even realizing it. I had a love for math. I loved the numbers, the process. So much so, I remember in high school I wanted to go build computers until I realized when I got to college, I prefer the software side of computer science, not the hardware side. But I ended up going to school, math and computer science, because I realized I didn't want teacher and I wanted something different. So that's how I ended up getting when my career started. And I started out in software support and then moving into development, and just that natural processing aspect has just always stayed with me, and that's how I got into IT.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Shubach. I am the Senior Director of Engineering at Pendo. I swear this is echoing. Can you
Sounds great.
Sounds great. All right. Okay, fantastic. That's good to know. So I got into the IT field when I took my very first programming class in high school, which was in BASIC. I'm also dating myself, I do realize. I loved that I could get the computer to do what I wanted, right? I was like, now, of course that was right, hello world on the screen. But I was still excited that I'm like, look what I can make it do. I began my studies at NC State as an aerospace engineer, and then decided I did not want to move to Florida. And so I had taken the first intro to programming class there, which I think was Fortran. Fortran, right? It was Fortran, right? And lots of And I said, you know what? I think computer science is what I want to do. So even though programming is what got me into computer science, that's not the job that I took right out of school. I did 24/7 software support for one of Intel's microprocessing factories. Probably one of the hardest jobs I'll ever have. Lots of yelling. It was very important to keep those computers up at all times. From there, I went on. I've done QA in my lifetime. I've done software development, and I've done management, but always solving problems.
That's great. I feel like I'm the only one that has kind of a non-traditional path because I was an English major, and yet I still wound up in IT. Anyone else have a non-traditional path into IT? Please, someone. Okay, we got a few. Thank you. Okay, I feel better. All right. Our first question, this is going to go for Sherry and Jennifer, so you can take turns whichever one you want to answer. What do you think is the most important factor that you attribute to your career success?
Well, success is different for different people. So I never gave you my title. I apologize. I'm not in software. In fact, I'm very far from it. Fortran actually told me, please go do something else. So I am the director for infrastructure and operations at SCCU. So I would have to tell you that, and I've told other people this, is I think relationship building has been a true success for me, and that's with the business, with technical people, with vendors. I don't put people in their place. In fact, when I meet a vendor, I normally say, this is a partnership. If you get a call from me, that's really, really bad. You're going to want to talk to me, but I'm not going to use that card very often. But if you hear from me, it's really, really bad. I've also always gone out and to seek a mentor. And I usually try to find somebody who is not like me, something that I admire and can't be, just to kind of get a feeling of, I'll never be them, but it's like if I can pick up something that would attribute to my success. I think mentors are very important. And I think even when you're internal at a certain level, there's a lot of things you can't share. And having somebody who's on the outside that just can give you a viewpoint, doesn't really even understand what you're talking about because they're not close to it, gives you kind of a sanity check. So that was my other thing. And then I always worked hard. I mean, to be honest with you, that sometimes I have a hard time being on these panels because I realize that women in tech. I never thought about it that way. I went into a job that only men were in, and I just played nice. There were things I saw that I should have raised my hand, but I didn't because it wasn't affecting me directly. So bottom line is, I'll only raise a flag if I needed to or whatever. But bottom line is, I got along with people, and that again attributed to my success. But I worked super hard to prove that I belonged there and I wasn't a token woman in the role. And then the last was I take risks, but I understand how to pivot. And I think there's a lot of people that take risks and don't know how to get out of it once it goes bad. And I will tell you, and I tell people this all the time, I'm an option B girl. I need option A, but what's your option B? So that's kind of the attribute to my success.
So I have to think about this question a little bit because there have been so many aspects that I think are important factors in career success. But as I considered what did this actually mean to me, I narrowed it down to staying curious and keep learning, even if what you're learning isn't directly relevant to your current role. And I have two kind of stories that relate to this. So early on in my career, I worked for a company that wrote software for a dairy cooperative. I knew nothing about cows. I knew I liked chocolate milk. Didn't like white milk. But I got hired for this job, and one of the things that my manager did was he actually had me call dairy farmers and ask them about the software that we were writing. And actually it was more about the reports that we were sending, because this is a long time ago. So I had to pick up the phone and call these grumpy dairy farmers who did not necessarily want to talk to me. and learn to listen to them and learn from their experience about what information they were getting and what they weren't getting. There's a whole lot that goes into the milk that you drink or you don't drink, in case you're curious about that. So I learned a lot about just using that curiosity. So tell me more about this with those men, because they were all men. And then the second thing that happened was when I had the opportunity to work in higher education, again, I started out as a programmer, I thought I had hit nirvana because I love to learn new things and I wanted to get a bachelor's degree, and so started working at this university, and I went to every possible workshop that I could get to. Did not ask for permission. I'm more of a ask for forgiveness kind of girl than an ask for permission kind of person. And so I would show up at talks that were given by people to meet other people who were not in the IT department, but were in other areas of the university. And I learned a lot of things that were not relevant to my job directly, right? I couldn't point and say, this thing helps me do this part of my job. But what I discovered was, as I advanced through my career, the people that I met and the things that I had absorbed when I was going to those talks and those training sessions were instrumental in helping me to be successful. So stay curious, keep learning. And it makes sense that I work in higher ed, right?
I think that's that adaptability of taking what you learn in all areas of your life and then being able to apply them to something new is critical. And Jennifer, what you said about mentoring, finding a mentor, that kind of leads into what I was going to ask Raji and Phoebe, because we talked about the importance of serving as a mentor to others. So tell us a little bit more about that for both of you, like how important that has been for you.
So I think everyone here, I have a quick question. How many of y'all feel you have mentors? Quite a few. How many of you feel you have sponsors or advocates? Quite a few, that's great. So to me, mentors can be anywhere. So while it's important to have formal mentorship relationships, I do think there's mentors actually, everywhere. Jennifer could be a mentor for me from a networking infrastructure standpoint. And I've learned a lot from several people in my life throughout my career, just various perspectives they bring to the table, various things they know and they're experts at that I have no clue about. So I think mentorship can be found anywhere. And to Sherry's point, if you're willing to learn and you're curious, you have a plethora of mentors throughout. So I'm not stuck on the formal mentorship relationship as I am with, everyone I meet could possibly be a mentor for me. The reason I asked about sponsors and advocates is I do feel women, especially in technology, when there's been a lot of discussion about how do we grow, how do we get opportunities, can we take risks? Because in order to grow, we have to be able to take risks. Who are those people who look out for us and give us those opportunities, knowing we have potential, but may not have done that particular thing or led that particular type of initiative in the past? Those are our sponsors or our advocates, and it's important for us to know who they are and make sure that we reach out to them, we help them along the way, because they're going to throw a lot of great opportunities to us.
And when I think about how important it is to serve as a mentor, I think about those who have mentored me as well as those that I've mentored. And a lot of that is, if you all heard the analogy, if you walk down the street, there's a hole in the street, what do you keep doing? What do you keep doing? I also think about that from a mentor perspective. If I've been able to avoid a pitfall, and I look at it as my responsibility to help someone else avoid that pitfall. So whether or not it is, and the mentors isn't necessarily hierarchical. I like how you talked about that, Raji. You can have the informal and the formal mentors, but it's being able to share your experience. If you've been able to accomplish something, you have the responsibility to help someone else get there faster, get there better. And that is one of the things I try to do with people that I mentor, is been there, done that. You don't need to go through my struggles. And even as we continue to develop as women in tech or even as leaders, is to help someone get there and do it. The other thing I think about of why it's important to serve as a mentor is we can also learn as mentors from those that we're mentoring. We can stay relevant to what's going on. Jen and I were just talking about even like LinkedIn. I would love to be a better poster. I'm not, but I have people that I mentor, and I'm able to, with technology, whether that is being more social or learning about different things. I led a mobile development team, and so there's some things even through my management or my mentoring got me connected to the mobile technologies through that experience. And so for those of you, hopefully, saw the hands raised that not only are you being mentored, that you're actively mentoring others, and then you have that dual relationship that happens in the process.
That's really great. One of the things that really I struggled with when I was early in career were the gatekeepers, the people that would hoard knowledge and not want to share, like, this is my job, I'm going to keep this information no matter what, because that's how they keep their jobs. Well, I worked in a university early in my career, and it was really strong there. Like, I will keep my job forever because I'm the only one that knows this information, and that's just never been the way I was built. It was you share, you collaborate. Maybe that's why I'm in community, because it's we get people to share what they know, share knowledge, right? That's the foundation of it.
Can I follow up with that? One of the things, even as a leader, my responsibility was if I can train my successor, then I can move to my next thing. And so kind of keeping that in mind was also an important part. So even your employees that you're mentoring, you can be trying to figure out who can replace me so that then I can either stand up, stand out, as opposed to what you just described, the hoarding of information, because that means I have to always be the one to do it. So I'd like you to share that.
Exactly, because if you're the one always doing it, then you're stuck, right? But that leads into Jen answering this next question, and then I'll pass it to you for that, Sherry, which is, what is a lesson learned you feel is important to share with other women in tech?
Yeah, so since we have more than just women in tech in the room, I'll actually say that this advice can go for really anyone in the room, and that is to be an advocate for women. Okay, so when one of the key things I think about is when we're putting together a team, and whether that is a team, like a working team, whether that is a tiger team working on a specific problem they're solving, whether it is an interview panel, team. If you look around and you don't see any women on that team, speak up. There needs to be a diversity of thought on that team, and women help bring that diversity of thought in the way that we approach problems. And so part of it is keeping an eye out for unconscious bias. That's how it happens. It's very unconscious. I don't believe that any of us are doing it consciously, but we are doing it unconsciously. Recently, I ran into a situation where I really felt like our upper management was showing favoritism to a male manager over a female manager who was not me. And this is a company that I love and people that I highly respect, so I don't think there was any intent whatsoever, but it was happening nonetheless. And so I talked to this upper manager and I said, I really think this is happening. And of course he was defensive to begin with, right? Like, of course I'm not doing that, right? You're accusing me of bias. I'm like, what I'm saying is I believe there is unconscious bias at play. So no, I'm not accusing you of doing anything intentional. And so eventually that favoritism did dissipate. So I'd like to think it was something I said. Well, we'll never know. But it did dissipate and it got better. So I encourage you to look out for that unconscious bias and to really advocate for women in the workplace.
That takes a lot of bravery, by the way, because it can be hard and it can backfire. So it's good. And Sherry, do you want to answer that too?
Software person.
Fix things.
So there's kind of two aspects to this from my perspective, and that is don't underestimate yourself. And this is relevant to women and men. but the imposter syndrome is a very real thing. And unfortunately, it does tend to impact women more than it does men, but it does impact men as well. And so imposter syndrome is when you believe that you're not really talented enough to do the job, and you think that people are going to find out that you are not who you say you are, that you don't have the skills, and that eventually you're going to be found out to be an imposter. That is such a challenge, and it's interesting when we think of how do we expand the pool of talented individuals. When women look at a job advertisement, they tend to wait until they have 100% of the experience and the skills before they apply, whereas research has shown that men tend to be at about the 60% level, right? They're like, 60%, that's good, I'm good, I'm gonna apply for this job. And so a lot of people, a lot of women tend to underestimate themselves and don't put themselves out and take that risk, right? So it's important for us to be aware of that and to figure out how to combat that imposter syndrome. So the flip side of that, don't underestimate yourself, is to actually be yourself. So I have a hearing impairment. I wear one hearing aid, which is a wonky thing. But when I took my latest position at Campbell, I was very intentional about explaining to all of the people that I worked with that I have this hearing impairment. And I'm going to probably ask you to repeat something because I may not have heard what you said correctly. Or I may have heard it in a way that makes absolutely no sense. Because I joke I have creative hearing. And I wanted to be upfront with everybody so that they understood why they would see this from me. And I felt so good that so many people in the IT department and then others across the university came up to me and said, I am so glad that you were upfront about this disability that you have, because I have the same problem and I always feel embarrassed about it. And as an advocate for students who come to our university with lots of different challenges, I think it's important that we model that behavior. And so bringing your full self to the role that you're in and helping people to appreciate what you bring is really important as well.
That's really great.
I just want to share a quote, International Women's Day yesterday, and there was a quote that was flying around in an email, which I thought was really powerful. It applies to men and women. It's, walk into a room knowing you deserve to be there. I thought that was really powerful, back to imposter syndrome.
So Phoebe, taking that, sharing with other people one step further, we had talked about you wanting to give advice to early in career women and people in tech. So
Happy to answer that, and I love what you two just said on don't underestimate yourself, be uniquely you, and own the room. While that wasn't a part of my answer, that's definitely what I will tell early career.
it is now.
I know. But it is because I will say on my screen background, it's not just for early career. The quote that I have says to you are uniquely you, because it's also my reminder that I'm there for a reason. I am uniquely who I am, not to try to be you or to be you, but to complement you and be uniquely you. So that's definitely to my heart. When I thought about early career women in tech, for early career in tech, the first part is don't be afraid to ask questions. Sometimes we tend to think we're supposed to know this, but you're early and you're learning. And I will tell you, as you move to different companies or different parts within a company, terminologies change. At Lenovo, you can be on one side of the business and ABC means this. You go to this side of the business, ABC means something different. So be okay to ask questions, because that's how you learn. That's how you stay curious, is by asking those questions. Believe you belong there. And if you're ever given the opportunity to explore, see different parts of the business, use your early career as a way to build that knowledge, build that experience. One of the things that I've enjoyed, that I've seen a lot of our early career employees, we have rotational programs, which is designed to go to see this part of the business for 6 months or your first 2 years of going in. So as whether you're early and you have the ability to do an official rotational program or not, just use that time to see what's out there, to see what works, what doesn't work, if you're given the ability to do that. I did not do that 20 plus years ago when I started, and I really have wondered, I didn't see as much as I would have liked to. So you have an advantage as more and more companies are doing those rotational programs. And the last thing I'll say, and Brad talked to this in the beginning, is network. Build your relationships. Because while you are building those relationships, you never know where you're going to interact with someone, how you're going to learn about different parts of the business or different people. So when you have the opportunity to connect, do that. And just continue to do that in your company, out of your company, because it is very important.
It is, because a lot of times when you are going to find a new job, it will be because of the people you know. I guarantee it. The last couple of jobs I got were because someone told me about an opening somewhere and introduced me to someone. I think a lot of us in this room, that's how we have found recent jobs. So definitely take advantage of that. And when you're new to a job, when you're younger, sometimes you're afraid to admit what you don't know. But when you're brand new to a job, that is the perfect opportunity to ask questions. Ask a ton of questions because you're new and everyone expects it. So it's okay to not know everything and to ask. So Raji, the next question was yours. And we were going to talk about how you build executive sponsorship or advocacy for your career progression and promotion at your company.
This kind of goes back to that sponsorship advocacy that I was referring to earlier. One of the easiest ways is to definitely, offer help to other leaders in the company. And, I see Jeff Jankula here, who I hadn't seen in ages. He used to be at First Citizens. And he knows that, all of the senior leadership team is always open to providing opportunities to anyone who raises their hand and says, hey, can I help you with something? So that's the easiest way that I've seen when there is a challenge and someone, a team is maybe, they've got a lot to do, there's a ton of initiatives, projects, they're swamped, is to raise your hand and say, can I help with something? And then you start building, a relationship with that team. You build some sponsors within that group. And if another new challenge comes along, your name might pop up and they might say, why not let's go ask Raji to help. So that's worked out for me. I'll rewind back to 2020 when, the entire world changed for us in March and April. Just like many other financial institutions, First Citizens Bank had to actually step up and deliver billions in terms of loans to small businesses. And we had to really turn around a process where we only processed, I want to say, 800 loans per year in the small business area. We did a lot of consumer lending, but as it relates to small businesses, we did about 800 loans a year. And within a span of 2 weeks, we actually ended up lending 23,000 loans just within those 2 weeks. And this is because 100 people across the bank came together working remotely to accomplish some of the most creative automation across the company. But I happened to be one of those that my boss tapped me on the shoulder and said, hey, he calls me one evening, this is around, a Wednesday evening, I distinctly remember this, around 5 o'clock, and he says, Raji, I need a pinch hitter, and I need 1 home run, if not 2. This guy is a baseball fan. Me, I don't know the first thing about baseball. All I knew is he needed help, and I said, oh yeah, sure, just, tell me what you need. I had no idea what I was walking into. He said, I've got to go attend a few meetings. Let me call you first thing in the morning. So 8 o'clock in the morning, we get on a call and he says, as you know, world is turned upside down. We've got to figure this out. We have no idea how to process these loan documents. Everything we deal with is paper today, and we have to be able to process thousands of loans in the next couple of weeks. So then I tapped on the shoulders of people I know who have helped in the past and who I know have the skills and capabilities. Before we knew it, we put together a small team. By Sunday, we had a fully automated solution working to create and get closing documents signed, which in the banking world is a huge deal to automate something like that. But that all happened because somebody tapped me on my shoulder and said, "Can you help?" And before I knew, that opened up, the doors to many other opportunities in the future. So I would say definitely raise your hand when you can help. Make it known that you're going to help and you're available for that.
Wow, that's pretty cool. This next one's going to be for both Jennifer and Jen, and you can answer it in whichever order you want. We had talked about you all telling us about a significant barrier to your success. But I'm going to add on to it because what we
Let me
didn't
have some of this.
yeah, take a swig, because what we didn't really talk about adding on to that was actually maybe how you overcame that. But I'm sure you probably as well
Switched careers.
as well prepared executives you are. I'm sure you already figured out that you were going to add in there how you overcame it, so that it kind of ends on a little bit of a positive note.
Oh, I got you. So I thought you were going to ask this question before you asked this first question, but okay, I got it.
So significant barrier, but if you want to add in how you overcame it, then go for it. If you don't, that's okay too.
No,
I mean, if you still haven't overcome it, you're still working through it, then we can crowdsource if you want to. It's all right.
Better help online. This was the reason I picked this question. She let me pick the question, and the reason I picked it is, well, two things. I didn't write this down, but I'm thinking about it out loud. So this is me on my feet. Passion, and the reason I'm going to bring that up is passion is a double-edged sword. You love people with passion when you need to get something done, and they're all about it, and they're very passionate about it, and they get it done, and they're so excited, and you just have to tap them on the back, and they're like, all right. The problem is with passion is when it doesn't go well, it can look like emotion, right? And women happen to have the stigma of emotion. And so I would say this is the only thing in women in tech that I would say bothers me. I'm very passionate, and I do a lot of great things because I'm passionate. But if they are going kind of sour, I'm still passionate, but then it's thrown on me that I'm emotional. And I just want to say men don't know how to deal with that. That's why they go to work, because they have wives. But I would tell you that if you have a passionate woman working for you who's passionate about getting things done, and you know they're rated a high, executing person, no matter what the job is, when they're having that breakdown of they're still passionate, please look at it that way. I can't tell you how many times in my lifetime somebody goes, "Is it your time?" Or whatever. And I worked in the 80s, ladies, so it was okay to say those kind of things. Back then, you could smoke at your desk as well. So I just want to say that to me is part of the problem, but it is also the thing that really drove the things that you want to happen. So make sure that you're checking yourself at the door when you want to go and say, you're being a little over the top, a little emotional. That is not the word to use. It really sets us off. But that to me is kind of it can be a career crusher in some ways if people aren't looking at it the way that it is. And if you know who the person is and they're getting things done. So that's not what I wrote on this piece of paper. And I'm just going to let that go. So.
All right, so the most significant barrier to success, so this is a easy question for me to come up with what that barrier is, but a little tough for me to go through, so bear with me. My husband and I started our family in 2003, And I showed my age again. Oh, I hate it when I do that. Yeah, we started our family in 2003, and in order to keep the amount of time that our daughter was in daycare down to a minimum, I worked from 6 in the morning until noon, and then I went and picked her up at daycare in the middle of the day. And then while she was napping, I worked 2 more hours in the afternoon. I'll save you the math, that's 40 hours a week. I had to do the math lots of times just to make sure, but it is 40 hours a week. And after about a year of this, I got laid off from Intel after being there for 9 years. And what they told me was that I was missing a skill they'd never asked me if I had, by the way. They said I was missing a skill, and that's why they were laying me off. But I always felt like it had a little more to do with my unique hours as a mother. I think people saw me as being part-time. So I've always believed that I had more to do with that. I'd spend the next 12 years as a stay-at-home mom, 12 years stay-at-home mom, and a small business owner, returning to the industry in 2016. And when I returned to the industry, I saw Todd Olson, who's the CEO of Pendo, where I now work. I saw him speak at a gathering, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to go work at Pendo. Like, I must. Well, they were not as enthralled with me as I was with them, unfortunately. And so I did not get that job with them. I had to go work a year and a half somewhere else. And the whole reason was this gap in my resume at 12 years, which I do understand is a significant gap, but that was the whole reason that they would not take a chance on me. So now, during my 5 years at Pendo, I've experienced a lot of success. I really can't complain. But I can't help but wonder what that success could have looked like without, had I not left the industry in the first place, or had things been different for me. So I guess you could say the most significant barrier to my success is the unconscious bias that was directed at me as a mother. First, when they didn't believe that, I could work these unique hours and still be a contributor. And then again, when someone believed that I didn't retain my skills after all that time. So that said, I wouldn't give up being a mother in order to achieve greater success. And let's be honest, being a mother has made me a better leader. So.
Yeah, I had the same thing happen. I was in school and I was telecommuting. I would telecommute on days I had class and then drive to school. And I got pregnant my very last semester of school and graduated, had my kid. And then suddenly, once I had a kid, I couldn't telecommute anymore. Even though I had been doing it and I had childcare and everything, suddenly they were afraid that I was going to be taking care of my kids. So they're working, even though I had a job that was working on the website, so it was perfect for working from home. But as soon as I had a kid, all of a sudden, nope, you can't work from home anymore because reasons. So that was 15 years ago, but still, whoops, I just aged myself too. There you go. See, but with the purple hair, they can't tell. So that's the secret, I'm telling you. So, yep, try it out. Those were all the prepared questions we had. So now we have the fun because we're gonna. Kate's gonna put our takeaways up there. Do you want to put that up? Yeah, we'll put those up there for now, and then we are going to see if we have any questions from the crowd. Jennifer has a question.
So I've always found, I actually wrote something about this on LinkedIn yesterday for International Women's Day, that early in my career, I felt like because I was often the only woman in the room, or very few women in the room, that my gender had a direct impact on the types of tasks that I was given, like go get the coffee, go take the notes, go do whatever. I would like to know if you all experienced that and how you were able to navigate that. And because the short story is you have to advocate for yourself to get out of those types of positions, but I'd love to hear how you guys did that.
So early in my career, I had taken a role as a network person. I didn't know anything about networking. And they took me because I interviewed and I said, I'm pretty cheap and I learn fast. And they're like, you're on. It's great. So anyway, I worked for them, and my boss's boss emailed me one day and wanted me to, he was traveling, he wanted me to make airplane reservations and hotel. I'm like, I'm a network administrator, and I don't even plan my own vacation, so this is it's really gonna, you talk about coach, he's gonna be waiting in line, I don't know. But anyway, so I went to my boss and I'm like, I am not doing this. I just want to be super clear. And I know the reason he's coming to me because I'm a woman. And I said, I'm very, very upset about it. And so that task went away very quickly. But yes, I have been tasked with things that I don't know why a network administrator would set your plane ticket. And I'm just going to tell you, don't go to them. Huh? That's right. That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So I was just gonna add, like, note taking is one of the big ones. Like when you're the woman in the room, taking notes. So I specifically don't take notes. Like I will look around the room and say, and I will say this. I'm not kidding. I'll say, you know what? I am just not great at leading a meeting and taking notes. So if somebody else could please take the notes, that'd be great. And somebody else always, they're like, oh yeah, I got it. Right, but otherwise it would fall on me without anybody even saying anything. It would fall on me to do. So I specifically don't do it and call out that I'm not going to do it.
Oh, what is that?
So I love the imposter syndrome that you talked about a minute ago, and I was wondering if you had any advice that I could give, or any of us could give, to someone that's close to us, a family member, perhaps, that, I'm just speaking for a friend, that has imposter syndrome, and you try to talk them through that, no matter what you do, it's like they don't believe you because like you're too close to them. So how can you tell someone, hey, it's okay to feel that way and go on?
Jeff, I'll talk to you after.
So one of the things that I have encouraged lots of people to do, and I have a son and a daughter who both have imposter syndrome, which is interesting because they are both talented and intelligent and super capable. And so with them and with people that I have worked with and I have coached with, I've helped them to understand that it's a real thing, that it's not just them. And I've encouraged them to talk with other people to find out if they also have this challenge. And I think normalizing it has made a huge difference because they understand it's not just them. And I have also encouraged myself and others to think about the accomplishments that they have made in their life or in their career that demonstrates, well, yes, I can do that because I was able to do this thing. And that's how what I learned in this role helped me be successful in that. So a lot of times it's helping them to connect the dots so that they can see that they are more than capable. But it is a lifelong challenge, I believe. And I think it just requires a lot of reminding people what they are capable of.
And I think when it comes to somebody really close to us, there's something built in where they go, oh, but you're my mom, or you're my dad, or you're my brother or sister. You have to tell me that. So sometimes it's getting someone else to tell them works better. It really does.
I just want to add a couple of things. One, and this is, anytime we try to do something that's difficult, it always helps us to look a little bit in the mirror to see some of the things we've done in the past. And so that gives us a boost of confidence, knowing one day I wasn't sure if I could do that, and now I've come across that hurdle and that hurdle. So, my confidence keeps improving. So that's helped me and my teams in the past. The other thing I want to add, Jeff, is that, the fact that no one knows all the answers. Sitting, at a table, We could be, we could walk into a room and we could say, we deserve to be here, but do we know all the answers all the time? Absolutely not. So just making that clear to the individual who has that syndrome, and I'm sure we all know a lot of people, who do feel, can I speak up? Am I, do I have the authority? Do I know what I'm talking about? But to make it clear to them, hey, I don't know what I'm talking about half the time either. So it is okay. So to expose some level of vulnerability has helped, I think, in the past.
And I'll just add to that one. I always, when I hear how do you overcome imposter syndrome, you don't. A lot of people may experience it. It's how long you linger in it that can make a difference. And so that's why I love the points here is, if that happens, one, it's okay to feel it, just don't stay in it. Because of all the things that you two just mentioned, of just thinking of that past success and what you've done. And also, I always think about like stretching the comfort zone, because if you stay where you're comfortable and you're not questioning or you're not pushing, then are you growing? And so sometimes it's I'm going to feel it, but I'm going to do it anyway and just push through, because that is how we grow. But going back to it, I don't know that we overcome it, and I'll speak about myself. I still feel it, but when the leaders that I follow and I hear some of the other people who on the surface seem like they never hear them talk about it, has normalized it, which makes it okay. And so when the question does pop in my head, I remind myself, as I mentioned, you are uniquely you. What I bring to the table is there, and I'm here for a reason, so I don't stay in it. So if you're experiencing that, help them get through it, navigate that situation, and move on and push through it anyway.
One of my favorite things to do is actually to be a cheerleader for my friends who are experiencing that, and reminding them, hey, remember this great thing you did? You are so good at that. Sometimes that helps if you have a trusted friend who can be your cheerleader when you can't be your own.
Yeah, and so thank you, ladies. Appreciate all your time. And I have a question. We talked for a second about the roles that, we kind of get placed in sometimes as women. And I've been part of Women in Tech initiatives for over a decade, and we held a similar panel with CIOs in Charlotte a couple of years ago. And one of the really important questions that was asked that I felt like so many people got a lot out of, including men, was, not only roles, but dress, like all the differences that make us women compared to men. Sometimes we get put in uncomfortable situations, and sometimes inappropriate things are said. What advice do you have when you're put in those situations or those uncomfortable things are said, to stand up for yourself, or to come back and come back and appropriately handle the situation?
You mean the nervous laughter doesn't work?
So I would say that, first off, I'm in infrastructure and operations, and I will tell you there are not a lot of women in infrastructure and operations, period. It's just not a role. And in fact, I worked at a, there's my phone. I felt the echo too. Where's the other one? There was three of them. Yeah. I don't know why it's echoing. My OCD is kicking in.
You're magnetic.
So, anyway, so a lot of times I was the only woman in the room or whatever, and again, if it didn't affect me directly, I've walked in on guys watching porn. I've been at people's houses with porn as their screensaver, and I had to have them log on for me because I had to repair the computer. I've been through so much, I can't even tell you. And so, I'll give a quick story though. So I walked in on a guy that had a direct dial-up for porn, and it happened at a certain time during the day or whatever. I won't say where I worked because I don't want everybody to know. But anyway, I walked in, the porn was up, I was brand new. He quickly shut it down as if I didn't see it. I kind of went into my own little corner and just ignored it. I ignored it because I wasn't sure what role he played in helping me get to understand where I was, what I was going to do, blah, blah, blah. And so I didn't want to, it didn't, again, affect me directly, so I didn't call it out. And I know there's all this Me Too movement and stuff like that, and I don't think anybody should do anything terrible to anybody, like place their hands on anybody or anything like that. But something like that, I just don't feel like was something I needed to raise up, because I had more to gain than if I'd have turned him in to lose. However, I became the manager of the group, and he was a big jerk. And I wish I had turned him in, because now I had to fire him. So that was the only regret I had, really. But just bringing that up. And again, worked in the 80s. I could go on and on about stories. Anybody else?
I had a lot of different situations that were like that too. And I think one of the things that I developed was the ability to give people a look that I perfected as a mom that actually works very well with people. And when needed, I would also say, I would look at them with the look and I'd say, that is not cool. We don't do that. And again, mom voice, right? So that being a parent has been very effective as the leader.
And I don't have any direct examples, but what came to mind is this is where you can have somebody with you, or advocate for someone else, such that if you are in a situation and you're not alone, advocate for people around the table, or pull somebody with you to say, hey, I need you to come here, even if you don't know the topic, but to not do it alone when you can, because there is strength in numbers.
I like that, and I also like the mom thing, because I think if you just point it back, this happens often, having been female in sales too, right? Point it back to them and be like, are you a father? Do you have a sister? Do you have a mother? Would you want someone to say that to the woman in your life that you love? And just maybe having them think twice about that. But it's gotten a lot better than it was in the 90s and 80s. I see it. This stuff does still happen. Who has another question?
Sort of piggybacking off that previous example, I have a younger sister. She's trying to get into journalism. She's got a thing here coming up at a publication, and this also happens to a good friend of mine, where they're both these very smart, engaging people, but they have an issue where somebody will pose a question, and then it goes around the room, traditionally mostly male room, and they'll have the answer. They'll have a good conversation. They'll have something to say about it. And they can't get a word in edgewise at any point in time, no matter what they try. What's worked with you in the past for trying to speak up or be heard, or make it such that you're in a room where you may be one of the only women there, that you aren't just barreled through or talked over by other people in the room?
I'll take that. No, please. So I again, something powerful for each and every one of us here to be able to do, starting right now, is amplify the voice of our female colleagues. So if each and every one of us did that, if someone was being talked over or not given an opportunity to speak, then we'll be their advocates and we'll say, hold on, I think, Jennifer, did you have a question there? And then open up the conversation to them. So that does require people who are advocates, who are watching for those types of things, to give the individual the opportunity. But for the individual themselves, it's hard, I think, to make yourself heard sometimes if you're caught in a room where you can't interrupt. One option might be, if you're physically in a room, what has worked in the past, potentially raising the hand, just standing up, maybe going to the board, starting to write something, if that will fit the presentation or the discussion. But to definitely, find a way to insert yourself, and then of course build enough advocacy, at least with one or more individuals who attend meetings, if you feel that this is going to happen, so somebody else can help amplify your voice.
I love doing that, because I'm not afraid to jump in and interrupt people. So I will always be happy to be like, hey, Sherry was trying to talk and you talked over her. Can you give her a chance to say something, please? I have no trouble with that. So that's one of my favorite things to do, is for someone who's more shy than I am is to just jump in.
I was going to say I'd never experienced this. And you can ask anybody in the room that knows me. But I would say this, if it's not like a conference and it's like back at work, if I have something that I'm passionate about or I know this meeting's coming up, I'll probably meet with some of the individuals individually to kind of talk through the way I feel and see if they feel the same way. So I don't really even have to speak. When I walk in there, I know 5 people are going to say something about the same thing and I don't have to repeat. So I can sit back. But that's that building relationships and getting people to talk to you, even if you have to take them to lunch and actually pay for it. That seems to work a lot. Just throwing that out there. But, yeah.
We're going to do the last question because we're at 8.
Cute. I'm honored at the last question. This question is for both of you. So navigating the ecosystem as a woman of color is hard. We all know that, right? There's a lot of stereotyping, and in Asian women of color even harder. In the East Coast, the hardest compared to the West Coast, right? And I worked in both coasts, so I can tell you that. So tell me, how did you navigate the ecosystem? What were the challenges you say you take risk? How difficult was it to take risk? How did you take it? Or, for you as well. I would love to hear more. And then also from the other ladies here to see how do you deal with that?
It's interesting. One of the first things that popped into my head was even the advocates that were in the room on my behalf. So it's building the relationships that we've talked about, and especially being not only the only female, but the only Black female. Sometimes it's hard. But I belong here, and so I had interesting upbringing in that I didn't walk in the room as I'm a Black female, so I'm unique. I walked in a room as I am one of you, and I'm here, so we're going to do this, and that was just my mindset of going in believing that I belong there. And the good thing is, some of my strongest advocates have been white men. And so when building the relationships and having the support of others there makes a difference. But I'm grateful for my mother, and seeing strong Black women in my life helped me to do that. But I'm not going to tell you, there could have been things that I didn't get, but I kept going in spite of, and then working to build those relationships. And then as I got into environments where I wasn't the only one, that networking, that amplifying the voice, that support of having people pull me along, other women of color, other Black women, other Black men was also helpful because I didn't have to be the only one. But my first job was in Poughkeepsie, New York. So it wasn't one where, so it was very common for me to be the only. But I said my mindset was I belong there. And so we're going to have an equal conversation in spite of our physical differences.
That's great, Phoebe. I just happened to be lucky to grow up with brothers, tons of male cousins, so it really didn't make a difference for me at the workplace when I had to, when I would be the only woman in the room, only Asian woman in the room. Also being able to just rely on what I know, my education, my experience, and being able to admit what I don't know, I think were the things that helped me. So I, back to what you said, Phoebe, a lot of my sponsors, my advocates were men throughout my life, in the professional space. And, it wasn't, that I was Asian or I was a woman that made a difference to them. So I have a lot of people to thank to help me get to where I am today. Most of them were men.
So I just want to point out that that question was really important for all of the rest of y'all in the room to be advocates, to help the women, especially the women of color, to be their advocates, to speak up for them when you see something going on and when they need an advocate to help raise them up and give them opportunities. That's extremely important.
All right, awesome. Thank you all. This has been amazing.
sharing your stories, getting personal, getting vulnerable. I loved the resolution here of no one does it alone, right? It takes a village, it takes a group of people supporting each other, allies, mentors, mentees, sponsors, advocates, everyone to help each other out. I love our takeaways and our quotes. A lot of it resonated with me. The motherhood journey, the unconscious bias, the continuing to learn that I belong here. I show up, I own the room. I'm not asking permission for a seat at the table. I'm bringing my own chair and I'm putting myself at the table. The partnerships, the relationships, the networking, and hopefully you all in this room took something away to learn, a lesson learned, and made a new friend, and come back and see us again. But thank you to our fabulous network. You do not have to stay seated. You may find new friends as you find your way out the door. We usually can stay in the room around 8:30 before we're asked to vacate politely. But I also heard there's a basketball game happening, so some of you may.